supply. Joining me now is Chair of this Defence subcommittee, I believe, Labor MP Julian Hill. If I get anything wrong on that, just tell me. So going backwards, I note this report talks about one of the main issues being low unemployment, as in Defence is out there competing and other people might be, trumping them on salaries or other things right now. So does that mean you feel like a correction's coming when unemployment does tick up?
Yeah, traditionally when the labour market's strong and the economy's strong, as it is now in Australia, then Defence and many first responders, police are having the same issues, struggle to recruit because there's very attractive options, and vice versa. When the economy's weakening or in a recession, national security, defence things look like safe options. But it's a serious issue for the country. Our strategic circumstances are worsening right across the region, and we need to increase the size of the ADF by a target of at least 18,500 by 2040.
And they're going backwards by up to 1,000 a year. Yeah. Part of the big issue is not just attracting, but retention as well. And anecdotally, certainly retention's being a bigger problem as well.
Yeah, it's function of maths. It's people out and people stay. So we want to improve retention, and to their credit, the Defence Force understand this. They've got a range of good initiatives to improve pay and conditions, give people an extra 5 days a year leave. So we'll monitor that and see how it goes. But it's a serious issue for the country.
The other issue, though, I mean, if you've got a young adult and you're the dad or the mum, you might be thinking about the mental health of a family member joining. The man in charge of the Royal Commission into veteran and defence suicide is saying government departments are stonewalling and there's a senseless loss of life that keeps happening. That could be a big problem too, couldn't it?
There's a range of reasons that impact retention. Concerns about mental health and what we ask people to do for our country are part of it. The economy, as I said, is a big one. But the way that Australia treats veterans is incredibly important, both to attract people, but also morally. People risk their lives not just in active duty, but in training. I mean, the SAS, for instance, more people have died over the years in training in the SAS than have died on operations because it's so risky what they do. So we do need to care for people and look after them well.
And look after their mental health. I mean, more people die from suicide than any other cause if you include current and obviously former. Do you need to listen to what Nick Coldis has said here? Does the government, and I say you in the plural sense, need to maybe take stock and force the department to play ball better? They seem to be stonewalling, in the words of the person heading this up.
Yeah, we'll certainly pay attention to what was said yesterday. They're sobering words, and the Royal Commission's been charged to look closely at this issue and try and work out what we can actually do that'll make a practical difference.
You've spoken about the so-called long shadow of Afghanistan to do with war crimes and alleged war crimes that were carried out by Australian personnel in Afghanistan. So you're not talking about excusing what happened, but moving on. Why is that appropriate to move on now?
It's a nuanced argument, and thank you for having the conversation. People who did the wrong thing, who are accused of war crimes, need to face the full force of the law. We're not taking a backward step on that. But these events were over 10 years ago, and the vast majority of people did nothing wrong, either people who served in Afghanistan with distinction or people who serve and risk their lives right now today. The SAS are out on operations that we and they will never be able to talk about. And it's up to politicians, in this case government MPs, as well as opposition, to speak up for them because they can't speak up for themselves. One of the concerns the committee's felt from talking to senior leadership in the Army, Chief of the Army, as well as diggers themselves, is this conflation in the public discourse, the public conversation with the past and the present. These events occurred over 10 years ago, and yet they're often still reported or understood as if it's still something happening now.
Well, so when you say reported or understood, is it around the reporting and the language and clarifying the length of time when it happened? Do we have certainty, though, as well, that anyone that could have carried these out might still be in Defence?
I'll give you a statistic. It's not a statistic we used in the report because it has a negative connotation some might take from it. But well over 80% of people in the SAS now never served in Afghanistan. The reason I didn't put it in there very consciously is I don't want in any way to imply that most people who served in Afghanistan did anything wrong because they did not. And that's the point.
But you're not necessarily tainted because you were there at the time, but you're saying the vast majority could not, there's no possibility they did anything wrong because they weren't there.
That's right. That is a core point. Australians rightly expect their leaders and institutions to take responsibility when something goes wrong. So if that means chasing down individuals, absolutely.
Okay.
But the SAS has transformed and changed, and we need to recognise that and draw a line in the sand.